What's a ghost gun? I don't know what that is.
It's 80%er. You just get a receiver, you mill it out yourself, and then you buy all the other parts to make a gun.
Oh, so you put it together?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like
but you actually have to be able to complete it. It's not a complete gun. So there is no serial number. It takes a little bit of skill, or computer with a CNC machine or drill press, you could do it.
So do you not go through the same protocol and background checks to buy pieces of guns?
We will here in California soon enough.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if your trigger spring breaks and you need a $3 spring, you're gonna have to take a background check to get it.
Is that overly controversial, the ghost guns? Is there a lot of opposition to that?
Well, yeah. Precursory parts for background check, you basically can't purchase anything online.
Because the idea of the law on the left is that, to that point, they don't want someone, or they're saying they don't want someone who can just do a DIY gun by mail, piece it together, go out and commit a crime. There's no serial number, no background check. Understandable enough. But then on the flip side, what the law actually ends up doing is someone like myself, someone like you, or anyone responsible gun owner, as you said, a $3 trigger spring breaks, I can't buy that.
So you already legally have a firearm, and you're just trying to keep your firearm functioning, and now you have to go through a background check because you wore your barrel out. You need a new trigger because, or anything, sights.
Right.
I suppose it's not the total end of the world, though. Just saying. If you have nothing to hide. It's annoying, it's inconvenient, but I suppose it's not the end of the world.
And it's also an added fee.
And it's an added fee.
Right.
Such as, I almost cursed, such as life.
But one of the challenges is, to Bill's point about ghost guns, is a lot of the laws that end up being enacted aren't always as clear as they may seem to be. They are supposedly having one goal, but retro-wise or separately, they end up having 7 different effects that ultimately kind of go back towards, the comment you made, that you haven't heard anyone who says they want to get rid of guns completely. I think that's a huge argument. I think that's the single biggest concern for most gun owners, is that most people who don't own guns or are against guns simply are for the abolition of guns across the board. I hear it all the time from people across the country. If you're not a cop, you shouldn't have one. And that part, you can see where it just scares people. Texas, obviously a very red state, and I have some good friends in Texas, including one who's in law enforcement, was a former SWAT team guy, so we were really talking about, responsible gun ownership and obviously a different mentality in Texas as well. But one of the things that I saw the other day, and I like to think of myself as very balanced on the issue. Obviously, I'm a gun owner and very supportive of Second Amendment and people owning guns. I certainly don't think that has no limits whatsoever. I mean, there's certainly extremes that I don't agree with, that I'm sure a lot of people do. But having said that, one of the things that I was looking at was a politician. They were talking to him, and he said, "We don't have a gun problem in America. We have a mental health problem."
Just thinking,
And I got to tell you, man, I'm not saying I would have agreed with much of this particular politician's beliefs, but he got skewered for that, and they went after him on all the late night shows, and they made fun of him, and they tore him apart. And I kept thinking, I imagine this guy must have said 50 things in the last month that would have been easy to say, moron, idiot, whatever. But man, that's pretty valid. That's a really darn good point, that the man's bringing up something. We have a mental health crisis that's probably never been worse, and we're sitting there trying to break it down to the topic of the tool or the device. But what about what is using the device? I mean, if someone is setting out to do some damage, we've seen it. They can drive a car into a crowd. They can hijack an airplane. That's not going to be as relevant, but
I do understand that a gun is a vehicle to kill people, and it makes it easy to kill people. I do get that, but it is the person behind the gun. And for the most part, it's not even a person who owns a gun. It's a person who gets their hands on something else. So could we crack down on mental health more? I can tell you right now, there are a couple people that I've met in my life that I think should be, with love, medicated, very much helped. They scare me a little bit. Yeah, Drew, they scare me a little bit. But there's nothing you can do. You can't call the police on someone who hasn't actually done something yet, but they're borderline maybe about, you can't do anything about it. I've called, you can't do anything about it. and then that person cracks it, but it's the gun's fault. So there's no way to get the mental balance in line.
Well, I imagine that when you're looking at the timesing that across the country, if you're having, between background checks, because one of the challenges is that the percentage of people who are committing these horrific mass shootings, and of course, there's nobody who looks at them and is not horrified. Your heart breaks. You think for the families, for the children, for the adults that are killed. I mean, there's no one looking at that who's sane and saying that that's a good thing. The bigger concern people have, like myself, is are those people even using legally acquired firearms to begin with?
Right.
And what else was that person going to do, if they didn't have that particular gun?
Yeah.
Are you going to stop someone by trying to eliminate every tool at their disposal? Or is the issue looking at mental health, trying to find out in advance what these symptoms are when someone's cracking, put better protections in place? What's your experience been?
I mean, they passed the red flag. So your school teacher, your ex-wife or partner or husband, they get a bone to pick, they can just call the police station and say, hey, I don't think he's stable and he has guns. Cops go to your house, they take all your guns, go to court to try to get them back.
That's called the red flag law? And that's in California, or that's national?
It's California. I don't know if it's national. I try to only pay attention to California.
It was just the other day in a road rage case. A guy pulled a van too close to someone's car. Total accident, and the person took out a gun and shot. So I can understand, and killed. The woman died. So it was all over the news, and nobody's heart doesn't break about that. But again, you have to look more at the facts. That person was ready to explode. That person sadly was going to explode if it wasn't there that day. That person was not going back to their job 9 to 5 and then going to go home and teach Sunday school and be completely normal and head on. I don't know where his gun came from. I don't know if they've had any information on that yet, or what if he even had it legally, background checks or not. But the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, we are an armed world. I think the biggest thing that personally I take offense to is when I see people trying to guilt shame when these tragedies happen. When people try to shame anyone who is in favor of responsible gun ownership as if it's our fault or it's my fault or someone's fault because you don't support a blanket ban against guns, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
And it's not only irresponsible, it's just not true.
Right.
And people get emotional and they start, yelling and shouting. It's like standing on a soapbox.
Yeah.
But it's skipping the entire concept of what's involved.
Yeah.
We can also say, let's not make automobiles that go above 50 miles an hour, to make it illegal. They can't go above 50. How many accidents less are going to happen, people injured? For the longest time, you're not allowed to drink and drive. How easy would it be to put a breathalyzer on every automobile in America and make it a law where you have to blow into that in order for the car to start? They can do it tomorrow, but we don't, because we're not a country to date that has restricted every single detail on such a level. We do rely on human beings to, as flawed as we are, to make decisions, to follow laws, and if they break the laws, I don't know a lot of gun advocates that think that someone who uses a gun illegally should get a pass or not go to jail.
No.
I mean, I think a lot of people who are in support of responsible gun ownership tend to be very legalistic as far as enforcing the laws.
But can I ask a question? So there's obviously a lot of different types of guns, right? And certain guns are, I'm guessing, probably designed for certain situations, right? Versus others. So I think the right to bear arms, yes, we all have the right to protect ourselves, but what weapon is needed to protect ourselves? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like in a lot of these mass shootings, people with mental instability have access to like ARs or whatever those types of guns are, that are more designed for like military use, or do you know what I mean? So like,
but an AR is to me, that's a home defense tool, and to many people, that is a home defense tool. I think there's examples.
Yeah.
I don't know that an AR specifically is one that would be for military use only.
So
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
If a mentally unstable were to get their hands on a gun and go to a public thing, would it be more dangerous for them to have an AR or a handgun? Asking, just throwing it out there. I'm just asking.
Most mass shootings are handguns.
Most mass shootings are handguns, but they're trying to control.
I always say, well, he had an AR. Most times it's in the trunk of the car
Oh,
because it's big. You're seen.
right.
Handguns, you can have them on, you pull your coat over.
True. I never thought of it like that.
They always let you know there was an AR.
But to Adrian's point, which is a reasonable one, so if there was a riot and people were trying to come into my home, the perimeter, I would use my AR for sure. I mean, it would offer a significant value of protection, or if there was a situation where there's a lot of different situations that can come up. So it's just that matter of restricting people's decisions and rights in different scenarios. Not everybody lives in the same environment we live in.
Totally. There's
So-
more dangerous areas where protection is probably more
I mean, people are
needed.
buying
Yeah.
ammunition, even when you go to a good gun shop and you look at the different types of ammunition's available, they'll say, okay, so for home defense, okay, and then you're using ammunition, generally, if you're smart, that is not going to necessarily go through walls, and you're going to be more aware if you're trying to just self-defense, protection, if someone breaks into your house, or
Yeah.
if there's a hostage situation in your house or something, you don't
Yeah.
want to fire and have a round that's going to go into 3 walls and take out someone else. So
Right.
it's not that these things don't exist.
Yeah.
It's a matter of educating people, or people who are willing to be educated on it.